Hey, what's up? I'm Jason and I'm an imposter. Or at least that's how I felt before. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to talk about imposter syndrome. I want to talk about how to tell if you're really an imposter or if you just have this syndrome that most of us have. And I also want to talk about how to know if you're ready for your first game job. So if you've been thinking about getting a game job, maybe you've been learning and getting a little bit better and you're not quite sure, stick around because we'll talk about that at the end. Before we dive into things, though, I just want to ask you to please like and subscribe. And if you don't do those, just share the video instead. In fact, don't do the other two. Just hit share it everywhere, and the world will get out, and everybody will know that we're not all imposters, maybe. We'll see. So first, I think I need to describe what imposter syndrome is, and we can start with a simple definition that might pop up over here under my hand or under my finger or somewhere. It'll pop up somewhere. Thank you, Josh. But I'm going to just explain it in my own words. And for me, imposter syndrome is that feeling that you get when you either start at a new place or just walk into a room with a bunch of people and you're pretty sure that they're all dramatically smarter than you. You feel like you're maybe not the smartest person in the room or not even close, or that you don't really know what everybody else knows, that everybody else has this knowledge and they know these things that you have no idea about, and that everybody thinks that you know things that you just don't know. And it's this fear of being found out that people find out, hey, he doesn't know this thing, or she doesn't know that one thing, or whatever these things are. And it's this fear that it's not just one thing, that it's like everything. So it happens to all developers that I've run into, at least. So really quickly, just if you're having this imposter syndrome, you're not alone. It's a very common thing, and it happens pretty much everywhere, but it happens in cycles. At least it happens for me in cycles, and I've seen it for other people in cycles. And usually it goes like this. We start off in our first game job or our first programming job, and you go in there thinking like, okay, cool, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to be an amazing programmer. I'm going to do all kinds of cool stuff. And you get in there and you look around and you realize like you don't know any of the stuff that's going on. Like, you might know how to code. You might know a little bit. You've done a game or something, or you've maybe made a little project or did some projects in school. But you get in there at least on the first job. And if you're not by yourself, if you're around other developers who are doing things, you're going to feel most likely very overwhelmed. Like, how do they know all of these things? How is it that, they tell me to do this one little task like it's a simple little thing, but it's like a mind-blowing, like a monstrosity of an idea for me. Like, it's something that I could never do. But they're just like, oh yeah, just go add this thing or go create this new system or go add this caching layer. And you're like, I don't even know what that is, right? It's the feeling that you start to get, or when you watch other people talk about their tasks. Now, ideally, when you start with a new job, you're not getting these crazy tasks. You're getting the smaller stuff, like go fix this little text here, go change this little bug here, and trying to learn along the way. But you might be seeing the other people doing these bigger tasks too. And then that just kind of builds into it because you're like, I know what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is relatively simple, but the thing that they're doing sounds insane. There's no way, right? Like that's kind of where it starts. But then over time, you get more comfortable, right? You're at this place, whatever the job is, whatever the project you're working on is, and you start to learn more about it. You get a little bit more domain knowledge. You get a little bit better at the systems, and you learn from the people that are doing some of the things. And you'll start to feel a lot more confident. And a lot of the time, the imposter syndrome will start to dissipate a little bit. And you'll feel like, okay, now I know how to code a little bit. And I figured out that I can learn some of these other things that I didn't know. So now I pretty much know how to do everything. There's just little things that I need to learn how to do. And that's kind of where people end up, I'd say, in the middle of their career. So you start off very, very afraid usually, and then build up to a point of, I'd say, usually overconfidence, right? You get to the point where the imposter syndrome is gone. You now know that you can do just about anything, and it just take a little bit of time and a little bit of searching. You'll be able to figure it out, no issue. Tear it up, and it'll be great, right? And that sticks around for a long time. I had the same problem. I had the same exact thing where I started off thinking, hey, I don't know anything. hopefully nobody finds out before and fires me or something, right? And then I learned and learned and learned, and I got comfortable. Got to the point where I could do the job fine. I could add things, but I wasn't good. I thought I was good because I could get things done. I could get tasks done. I could make the project work or make the thing do what it needed to do. But I wasn't doing it quickly. I wasn't doing it in a good way. I wasn't doing it in a maintainable, clean way, and I wasn't preventing myself from creating new bugs. I was doing a lot of bad things. I just knew that I could make anything happen. I just didn't know I couldn't make it all happen right. So the imposter syndrome then just kind of fades away, disappeared for me. And I've seen this happen for a lot of people. It's, usually around like 3 to 5 years in, start to feel really, really confident, maybe a little bit overconfident, and not realize all of the things you don't know. And this happens more so if you're in a single place. So if you're not going from company to company, you're not changing companies, and you're not interacting with developers enough to be constantly learning, then this is where I see this happen a lot. And there are some environments where you could stay in the same place and constantly be learning and constantly be growing, like mob programming setups. I really love those. And there are lots of other places where that can happen. But most of the time, this is where that ego comes from. It's the whole, I got things done, it's all good, I don't need to know anymore. And then things change, right? Then you change organizations, you switch jobs, you get bored of this project, it's time to start a new one, and it's a brand new project from scratch, and you've never done that before. Or it's a new type of game, a new engine or something else, and you're completely lost, and the whole cycle kind of resets. You go right back into that imposter syndrome where you're like, I thought I knew how to do everything, but now there are a bunch of things that I don't know how to do. And I keep finding out all this information about all these other things that I don't know how to do. And I keep hearing about things at conferences and talks and YouTube videos that I don't know how to do. And like, what am I going to do? How do I catch up? Everybody's going to find out again that, hey, maybe I should just go back to just doing the simple thing, just the easy, repeatable stuff that I was able to do before, and not grow, not try to learn new things, because I can do that and I won't get caught, right? And that's a trap you want to avoid, right? Don't fall into this whole fear of new things, or fear of switching jobs, or fear of taking on new tasks because somebody's going to find out. You're going to find out that, well, first, you're probably a lot better at the thing that you're probably not nearly as much of an imposter as you think you are, I guess is a good way to put it. And the only way to get better is to keep doing new things and keep learning this new stuff. So if you just push yourself into a corner and hide, you're never going to get better at it. You're never going to grow, and you're just screwing yourself. So don't do that. Instead, there are a couple things that I would recommend you do. So let's just cover those. And the first is to just talk to people. So I think the number one thing that kills developers' careers and growth is not talking to other developers, just coding in a vacuum with just yourself and Stack Overflow, and that's it, right? You figure out what the problem is, you get the requirement from the product manager, whoever it is, you figure out how to add that in, how that would kind of squeeze into your app, and then you move on to the next thing, and you never talk to anybody about how you're going to do it, what your design ideas are, how you want to implement it, new things that they're doing, or anything else outside of that one little project. It's a really good way to limit your growth and limit your knowledge, and kind of lock yourself in, and really turn you into somewhat of an imposter when you jump to another career, or jump to another place, because you'll never know more than just that one thing. So don't do that. Make sure that you're actually talking to people. And now, if you can't just get out and jump on new projects, or you can't share your own work, then get into some user groups and meetups and stuff, and just go out and see what other people are doing. Learn from their projects. Learn from the mistakes that they're making and the problems that they're having. The easiest way for me to learn is just watching other people stumble and fail and have problems, because I can see what they did, how they tried to solve it, what didn't work, and then figure out what did work and what worked best, and then how they've been able to address the problem. And then I also get the benefit of seeing the results of their experiments, right? They try something, like they try some new framework or some new system. I can kind of follow along and see how that's going, and whether or not I should try that, and what kind of things I should watch out for. So definitely recommend that. Talking to people is by far the biggest thing. But you can also just watch a lot of videos. You could find something that you're very interested in, like a specific subject that you feel you're weak in, and just take courses on that. I do that all the time myself, just to dig in deeper on things that I'm not super comfortable with. And the most important thing I'd say, beyond these two, like, do both of those, but take the feedback and the things that you get from these seriously. So if you watch people do stuff and you watch them fail and you watch them succeed with something, see what it is that they did and see how you can actually experiment with it. Don't just like absorb a ton of information, write down notes, and never use them and forget about them. Find things that you can actually experiment with yourself and try them out and see how they work. If they don't work, fine. Roll them back, get rid of them, delete them, undo them. But if they do work, you can slowly start to move forward with them. And that's why I like to do them as smaller experiments. So just like you find a cool pattern, drop it in somewhere, see if it's going to work, maybe play with it a little bit, and then if it doesn't feel right, pull it right back out. Don't just implement things just to implement them, but don't just absorb info and ignore it, because that's another thing that a lot of people do, is they'll just like learn, but not really get the info, not really learn it because they're not actually using the stuff. So make sure that you actually experiment with and try the things that you're learning about. And then when it comes to imposter syndrome in general, just accept that it's a thing, right? Like, it is a real thing that almost every developer knows about and talks about and deals with. So if you're feeling like you're an imposter and you're trying even a little bit, don't worry too much about it. Like, don't let it get you down, and don't let it make you hide. That's the biggest thing. Like, don't let it make you hide off in a corner and be afraid to talk to people or show anybody anything because people might find out. Let people find out. Let people find your weaknesses and your strengths, and let them point out your weaknesses. You can grow there, and let them learn from your strengths, right? Share this knowledge, share what you have, and kind of make it a two-way street with other developers that you work with too. And just remember that you're not alone. Everybody has this. Now, let's talk about getting a game job. So, are you ready for your first game job? And this was actually a question that a couple of people have asked me recently, and the answer, I'd say, varies dramatically, but I think I can give you a really quick, easy way to know. So if I give you the task of go create this small mobile game, maybe it's like balls. I like that game. Nice simple one where you pull and you smack some balls. And if I give you the task of, hey, go recreate that with all of the features. If you can do that on your own without outside assistance, maybe with searching with some plugins or whatever, but if you can do that and you can build it all on your own and deploy it out, then yeah, you're definitely ready for at least some sort of a game dev job. I may not be ready to go work at a AAA studio on, the next biggest game, but you're certainly ready to work at a lot of game studios. I wouldn't recommend going in as the only developer on a project, because at that point, you really want to be working with other developers where you can learn from them and grow. You don't want to just be trying to grow and learn on your own, kind of like what we've been talking about the whole time. But you definitely can get a job doing that. Like, if you're at that point, you could definitely get a job doing game development or doing app development. So don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to go out there. And to end this off, I just wanted to point out a thing that my wife reminded me about and asked me if I was going to mention, which is that when you're applying for jobs, don't self-exclude yourself by the requirements section. Read the actual description. So what I used to just tell people was that the job requirements are a lie. And it's because they are. It usually seems like it's just people coming up with a list of things because they know they need a list of things. So they will come up with things just to put on the list, just to make it a list. That's it. It usually is a bunch of bullshit, right? Like, it's just not accurate. So what you should do instead is look at the job description. Look at what you'd actually be doing and think to yourself, like, do I think I could do this? Do I think I could do most of this? If I think I could do most of this, then apply for the job. Ignore most of the job requirements. Obviously, if there are crazy requirements that, and it's a ton of crazy requirements that you're nowhere near, then fine, don't. But if you meet half the requirements, apply. Just apply, because know that those requirements are probably crap. But when you apply with a portfolio, apply with a link. So give them something that they can click on, that they can go see exactly what you've done, where you're at, and kind of the best of what you can do. That will help you a lot in getting the job. But the one thing that'll definitely kill you from getting the job or stop you is fear of even applying. So just make sure that you apply. Remember that job descriptions and especially job requirements are almost always a lie. It's almost always just a list of things that we would love to maybe do in the future. Right? Like I say it all the time, it's just all of these things, and a third of them or half of them on the thing are like stuff that we're not actually doing. Stuff that we've maybe loosely talked about that somebody dropped in there, and they just keep adding stuff to the list. So make sure that you apply. And if you can make those mobile games on your own, you should be qualified to get in, at least in a junior position, and start making games and start learning stuff. If you can do that and a whole lot more, then you are more than ready, and you should be working on some sort of a game. So get out there and do it. If you have questions about this stuff, please let me know. Just drop them down below. Anyway, thank you. Thanks also to everybody on Patreon and everybody who does like and share. All right, let's go.